The first step in planning involves setting goals. The best way to do this is to use the SMART criteria. Is to use the SMART SMART criteria. In this approach, a goal should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. Time frame should be clearly defined. This is one of the key principles in planning. Without deadlines, any project can drag on for too long and your goals may never be accomplished. Let's consider the following example. A company that specializes in property sales on the primary market is planning to start selling a new kind of property, townhouses. These are low-rise, convenient homes with individual entrances. The properties are terrace and have their own small plots of land. Townhouse offerings should appear in the company's catalogue within 6 months. This is the deadline set by company management and is the company's goal. The next step is to analyse resources, including human, financial and material. In our example, we need to determine which resources are already available and which are not. Human resources are basically personnel. In order to sell townhouses, it isn't really necessary to employ new real estate specialists. The company's current employees are more than capable of learning the specifics of this type of property and successfully managing sales. The same goes for solicitors and accountants. All of the required human resources are in place. Financial resources refer mainly to the capital required for advertising campaigns or upfront payments to contracted developers. For example, material resources, in our example, would be the company's office and vehicles to access the development site. You have now set a goal and determined which resources are at your disposal and which you need to acquire. The next step is to plan specific tasks and set deadlines for completion. Break down the main goal into several smaller goals. In our example, the real estate agent should set the following specific tasks. Create a set of proposals on townhouses, sign contracts with developers, launch a marketing campaign, and work with clients on the new proposals. Once the specific tasks have been laid out, start to set deadlines and draw up a schedule. The best way to do this is with a Gantt chart. A Gantt chart helps to illustrate the sequence and time frame of tasks to be completed. The chart, first used by management consultant Henry Gantt, helps by laying out specific actions and time frames. You can use this to visualize the work schedule for the project. The chart is really useful as it enables you to not just see sequential tasks, but also the simultaneous implementation of several tasks and their independence of one another. We'll return to this again when we talk about delegation. With the Gantt chart, you can evaluate the sequence of tasks and the time required for implementation. A visual representation makes planning easier. In addition, this kind of chart makes it easier to monitor the rate of completion and any deviations from the planned timescale. You would fill in the left side vertical column of the chart with all the tasks in a sequential order. Draw up a set of proposals, sign contracts with developers, launch a marketing campaign, and work with the clients. The next step is to set time frames. Drawing up a set of proposals on townhouses will take about 4 months and can be ongoing alongside other project tasks. Let's also assign 4 months for signing contracts with developers when selecting townhouses. A marketing campaign can only be launched after writing the proposal for clients, otherwise you won't have anything to advertise or promote. Let's set aside 2 months for that on our chart. You can start working with clients simultaneously. Having completed the project in 6 months, you can use this timescale in the future for daily work schedules and new specific tasks, such as increasing sales of this product or expanding the geographical area of an offer. When setting timeframes for the implementation of a project, or simply when planning work schedules in a company or department, be realistic in your estimates. Don't reduce schedules at the expense of the quality of work to be carried out, but don't become complacent either. There are many approaches to time management. The most important is an efficient use of work time. According to a concept by Italian economist Wilfredo Pareto, 80% of the end result comes from 20% of the time spent working on it. You should try to take into account that most of the time is spent fulfilling a small number of extremely difficult tasks. Use the so-called Eisenhower decision principle to place tasks into 4 categories: important, urgent, unimportant, not urgent, unimportant, urgent, and unimportant, not urgent. Try to complete your tasks in this order, and when planning, begin with the most important. In our example, the order of tasks is arranged according to Eisenhower's approach. Determining which townhouse to sell is an urgent and important part of the plan. If this isn't done, the object can't be implemented. Signing the contracts with developers and fixing sale prices is important but not urgent. The unimportant but urgent matters include difficulties placed during the implementation of the project. For example, the need to prepare additional documents. Unimportant and non-urgent tasks could include improving the website design. You can use the same principles when planning any work schedule. For example, let's say your manager has asked you to prepare a monthly report by the end of the working day. You're thinking that all you'll need to do is to change the figures in last month's report, which you think will take you no longer than 15 minutes, as you're in no hurry to do some other work. When you finally look at the report, you realize that you don't have all of the information at hand. You can only get the information from a colleague in the finance department who is in a meeting right now. As a result, you fail to meet the deadline and hurt your reputation. Always start with the important urgent matters, even if at first glance you'll think you'll manage them easily. This means that any failed deadlines will be for unimportant and non-urgent tasks rather than priorities. Once you've set timeframes and established priorities, you can work the work process more efficient by delegating authority. You can delegate the kinds of jobs that occur routinely, require specific skills, or those you don't really enjoy. It's usually managers who do the delegating, but it's also possible among co-workers, and planning is required for this as well. Let's look at an example. A marketing director does not have a very good understanding of townhouses, but one of his assistants has experience working on a successful advertising campaign that promoted them. This assistant should be made responsible for establishing a strategy to promote the product. The next step in the delegation process is to choose the level of responsibility. In our example, the marketing director continues to be accountable for the progress of new proposals and supervising. Delegating should facilitate the effective use of employee strengths, make work less mundane, and evenly distribute the workload. So now we've set tasks, deadlines, priorities, and delegated authority accordingly. Having set timeframes for planning, don't forget to monitor adherence to the schedules. Every day, each employee should analyse how he will allocate his time to complete his tasks. You don't need to supervise every single step, and an employee should be able to set his own pace. Evaluate the project's progress with intermediate and final checks and reviews. Employees do not need to know when the intermediate checks will take place. The final check is a management evaluation of the quality of work completed by employees and their corresponding schedule. Let's imagine a real estate agent gave its employees the task of creating a portfolio of 400 townhouses. Our scheduling allocates 4 months for this. After a 1 month intermediate check, you find out that there are only 50 proposals. This is no reason to introduce disciplinary measures. The key to supervising is not to criticize or accuse, but to identify shortcomings and motivate. If there is any deviation from the given schedule, Remind employees that they need to adhere to it and try to look into the causes of the delay. Now, if a task is not being completed on time, sanctions may be appropriate. You could reprimand the staff, fine or even dismiss them, but sanctions should be set and agreed upon during the planning stage. Remember that the most important outcome is achieving your goal, not disciplining employees. Be rational when choosing sanctions. Always listen to an employee's explanations for setback. Agree in advance that you should be told about a force majeure as soon as it happens, rather than during one of the checks. If you're being supervised, always warn management in advance about any obstacles affecting the deadline. We've gone over the basic steps of practical and effective planning. Let's review it briefly. Planning always starts with setting goals, establishing deadlines, and analysing resources. When planning a schedule, use a Gantt chart. When planning a schedule, use a Gantt chart, which allows you to compare tasks and set deadlines. Some tasks can be undertaken simultaneously. Work processes can be made more efficient by delegating authority. In order to meet deadlines, it's best to list priorities, starting with important and urgent tasks. Don't forget to check that deadlines are being met both throughout the project and at the end. Sanctions should be put in place in case deadlines are not met, but these should be agreed upon in the planning stage. Remember that the most important outcome is achieving your goal, not punishing employees.